In the 10th year of being with Oscar, he prepared a grand, high-profile proposal for me, but after he knelt on one knee and put the ring on my finger, he admitted he had cheated without any warning at all. Whether you stay with me or break up, that's up to you. His tone was calm, as if he were talking about some piece of gossip that had nothing to do with him. He said that before proposing, he had conveniently gone on a date with the new intern at his company. I originally prepared 999 roses, not one less. That's what stands for forever. But Luna said she liked them, and somehow, I didn't even think much about it. I just gave them to her. The tears from the proposal were still on my face as I looked at him in disbelief. You like her that much? He shook his head faintly. His gaze finally settled on me. Not really. I just suddenly realized that guarding one person for 10 years, occasionally trying something else feels pretty fresh. He shrugged indifferently. But after all these years, we're used to each other, so the proposal still had to happen. I froze. The cheers and congratulations from our friends suddenly became sharp and piercing, pressing in on me until I could barely breathe. Chapter 1. Helen. Why aren't you saying anything? Oscar stood up, brushed off dust that wasn't even there from his knee, and frowned slightly, with a trace of impatience, as if my silence at this moment were some kind of ingratitude. I looked at him, the face I had loved for a full 10 years, from a boyish youth to the mature man before me. Every contour, every expression, had been carved into my heart. But now, on this familiar face, there was nothing but unfamiliar coldness and entitlement. 10 years. So in his world, 10 years are only worth the word habit in a sentence like pretty fresh. It felt as though an invisible hand had seized my heart and was squeezing it so tightly that I couldn't breathe. At last, our friends sensed that something was wrong. The cheers gradually died down, and they exchanged uneasy glances. Oscar, what did you just say? My best friend asked, trying to break the eerie silence. Oscar ignored her. He only stared at me, as if waiting for my answer. He was certain I couldn't leave him. After all, my entire youth was bound up with him, my social circle, my daily life, even my plans for the future. He was everywhere. He was the center of my world. And now, that center was telling me that while drawing my circle, he had casually drawn another for someone else too. I slowly raised my hand and looked at the huge diamond ring on my ring finger. Under the warm lights of the restaurant, it reflected a cold, blinding glow. How ironic. Half an hour earlier, when I saw him walking toward me holding that ring, I truly believed I was the happiest woman in the world. All my friends were there, witnessing the end of our 10-year love story. It turned out the end was a cliff. Why? My voice was dry and hoarse, like sandpaper scraping my throat. There's no why, he said lightly. It just happened. He couldn't even be bothered to make up a lie to brush me off. That bluntness hurt more than any deception. It told me plainly that in his heart, I wasn't even worth lying to. So, who's Luna? I continued, my nails digging deep into my palms, using pain to hold on to the last shred of clarity. The new intern at the company, a pretty lively little girl. When he mentioned her, there was even a faint, barely noticeable smile at the corner of his lips. Lively. Yes, I was 29 now. No longer the 19-year-old girl who would blush and have her heart race at a single word from him. 10 years of daily life, groceries, bills, routines had worn down my sharp edges, and had also worn away the light in his eyes. Then the 999 roses. She must have been very moved, right? My voice was unexpectedly calm. Oscar finally showed a hint of surprise. He probably thought I would cry, make a scene, hysterically question him. It was fine. Girls all like that kind of thing. I laughed. Not a smile, not a bitter laugh, but an uncontrollable, breathless laugh. I laughed until tears streamed down my face. Everyone around us was startled, staring at me as if I were insane. Oscar's expression darkened. Helen, have you had enough? I slowly stopped laughing, raised my tear-blurred eyes, and said to him word by word, Oscar, you're disgusting. After that, I took off the ring, the one he had said he was going to give anyway, without the slightest hesitation, and casually tossed it into the soup bowl on the nearby table. Splash. Like a stone, it shattered my 10-year dream. Under everyone's shocked gazes, I stood up and walked out of the restaurant without looking back. The night wind hit my face. It was cold. Only then did I realize that the wind that had blown on me for 10 years had truly stopped. Chapter 2. I didn't go home. That home, the one we had designed together, furnished together, filled with 10 years of memories, had, in that moment, become the wound I least dared to touch. I found a nearby hotel and checked in. I threw myself heavily onto the soft bed. The luxurious crystal chandelier on the ceiling made my eyes ache. My phone was vibrating wildly in my bag. I didn't need to look to know it was Oscar, or our mutual friends. I ignored it, like a puppet whose strings had all been cut. I lay there without moving, my mind replaying every word Oscar had said. Not really. Pretty fresh. We're used to each other. Every word was like a poison-coated blade, slicing my heart over and over. 10 years, so in his heart. I had fallen to the level of roadside wildflowers, nothing more than something new to try once in a while. My stomach churned violently. I rushed into the bathroom and retched over the toilet. But nothing came out. Only bitter bile surged up my throat, burning my esophagus. Looking at my pale, vacant-eyed reflection in the mirror, I suddenly felt an overwhelming sense of unfamiliarity. Was this really the proud, confident Helen I used to be? I didn't know how long it took before I finally had the strength to get up from the floor, splash water on my face, and pick up my phone. Dozens of missed calls, 99 plus unread messages. I opened them. The top ones were from Oscar. Helen, throwing a tantrum also needs limits. I'll have someone fish the ring out. If there's anything, come back and talk in person. You've really embarrassed me in front of my friends. Do you know that? Line after line. Sentence after sentence, there was not the slightest trace of apology or remorse, only lofty accusations and commands. In his understanding, he wasn't the one who was wrong. I was the one being childish, ruining his proposal party, making him lose face. I was so angry I laughed. My fingers flew across the screen. I didn't reply to him. Instead, I opened the WeChat profile of the girl named Luna. She had been added when Oscar's secretary created a work group for convenience. I had almost never paid attention to her. Her feed was lively: food, travel, luxury goods. The latest post was from 3 hours ago. The background was a sea of roses. 999 red roses completely engulfed her petite figure. She was smiling brightly, smugly. The caption read, "He said I'm his only surprise." Location, downstairs at Oscar's company. Time, 1 hour before he had come to the restaurant to propose to me. Only surprise. Then what was I? A habit that came with time? Or a prop to prove that after playing around, he would still return to the safety of home? The pain in my heart had gone numb, replaced by a bone-deep chill that spread from my feet through my entire body. I didn't comment under her post. I didn't message her to curse her out. I simply took a screenshot. Then I opened my chat with Oscar and calmly typed one line. Oscar, we're breaking up. Send. Then, block. Delete. All in one breath. After doing all that, it felt as though every ounce of strength had been drained from my body. The phone slipped from my hand, fell onto the carpet, and made a dull sound. The world was finally quiet. I curled up on the bed, wrapping myself tightly in the blanket, yet still unable to feel even the slightest warmth. Breaking up. I said those 2 words so easily, but only I knew that behind them lay 10 years of youth, torn apart alive. Chapter 3. The next day, I was woken by a burst of urgent ringing at the door. My head was splitting. I struggled out of bed and looked through the peephole. It was Oscar. His face was full of impatience. He had actually found this place. I didn't open the door. I turned around, went back to the bed, and covered my ears with a pillow. The ringing stopped. It turned into heavy pounding. Helen, I know you're in there. Open the door. What exactly are you trying to do? Do you really have to make this so ugly? His voice pierced through the thick door, carrying anger and a trace of panic he couldn't quite hide. I closed my eyes and didn't move. Ugly? From the moment he chose to cheat, everything between us had already become unbearably ugly. And now he was blaming me? The pounding went on for more than 10 minutes before it finally stopped. I thought he had left. Just as I let out a breath, my phone rang, an unfamiliar number. I hesitated, then answered. Hello? It's me. Oscar's voice came through the receiver, suppressing his anger. You've got some nerve. You even blocked me? Oscar, I think I made myself very clear yesterday. I replied coldly. Break up? Helen, you're breaking up with me? He sounded as if he'd heard the greatest joke in the world. What are you using to break up with me? Your job was something I pulled strings to get you. Your car, I bought it. Even the place you're living in now. The down payment came from my parents. If you leave me, what do you have left? His words were like sharp ice picks, stabbing straight into my heart. Yes, these 10 years, I had grown used to relying on him, used to him arranging everything for me. I thought that was love. Only now did I realize it was a net, woven in the name of for your own good, airtight and inescapable. Without noticing, I had become a canary in a cage, losing the ability to fly on my own. I'll return all of it. I took a deep breath, forcing my voice not to shake. Return it? How are you going to return it? He scoffed. Helen, don't be childish. I know you're just angry right now. I'll give you time to cool down. In a few days, I'll come get you and take you home. We'll just pretend none of this ever happened. Never happened? I repeated the words. A surge of rage mixed with overwhelming grief rushed to my head. Oscar, do you think I'm especially easy to bully? In your eyes, am I just something without boundaries or dignity, an accessory you can summon and discard whenever you want? That's not what I meant. That's exactly what you meant. I cut him off, my voice suddenly rising. You cheated. You confessed. You gave me a choice, and you thought I had no option but to accept it. Because I love you. Because I can't leave you. Oscar, that's what you were thinking. The line went silent. My accusation had hit the mark. After a long time, he finally spoke again, his voice low. Helen, 10 years together. Are you really going to throw all of it away because of one small accident? A small accident? He called betrayal an accident. I lost control and shouted into the phone. Get lost! Then I hung up hard and blocked the number as well. The world fell quiet again, but my heart was in chaos. He was right about one thing. It seemed that I really had nothing left. I quit the job that I had gotten through his connections and began sorting out the property that needed to be settled between us. The car, the apartment, the gifts he had given me over the years. The process felt like personally burying my past. Every single item carried a piece of what had once been beautiful, and now each had become proof that stabbed straight into my heart. While organizing my bank statements, I suddenly realized that my period was over half a month late. A sense of foreboding seized my heart in an instant. Chapter 4. I rushed out of the hotel and bought a pregnancy test at the nearest pharmacy. Back in the room, trembling, I locked myself in the bathroom. Those few minutes waiting for the result felt longer than a century. My heart was pounding wildly. My mind was completely blank. I didn't dare look, yet I couldn't stop myself from wanting to. Finally, I gathered my courage and picked up the slender stick. 2 bright red lines. Clear, blinding. I was pregnant. The realization struck my mind like a thunderbolt. I collapsed onto the cold tiles. The test slipped from my hand and hit the floor with a soft snap. What should I do? A child with Oscar. Just when I had decided to leave him completely, this child's arrival felt like a cruel joke. Instinctively, I placed a hand over my still flat abdomen. Inside it, a tiny life was growing, a child bound to him and me by blood. 10 years of love couldn't simply be cut off. I hated him, his betrayal, his coldness, but I also loved him. That love had seeped into my bones and become part of my life. Could this child be a turning point? A chance for us to start over? If he knew there was a baby, would he come back? Would he cut things off cleanly with that Luna for the sake of the child? A humiliating thought surfaced against my will. It startled me. Then came a wave of deep self-disgust. Helen, are you insane? After everything he's done to you, you're still thinking about using a child to hold on to him? Have you forgotten how he described you? A habit. Have you forgotten how he described that woman? Something fresh. Even if he came back for the child, that love would no longer be pure. His body might return, but what about his heart? I clutched my head in agony. Large tears fell onto the tiles one by one. Just as I was torn in inner turmoil, my phone screen lit up. It was a message from my best friend. Helen, are you okay? I saw Luna's post. She actually moved into your place with Oscar. She even posted photos wearing Oscar's shirt. That bitch! Oscar has gone way too far. Below the message was a screenshot. In the photo, the girl named Luna was wearing an obviously oversized white men's shirt. I recognized the style instantly. It was a birthday gift I had given Oscar last year. She stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling windows of our home, smiling provocatively. In the background were the sofa we had chosen together, the rug we had bought together, even the pothose plant I had raised. My home, the home I had built with care for 10 years, now occupied by another woman, and my man had allowed it. In that instant, every fantasy about winning him back shattered into dust. The last trace of attachment I had for Oscar was completely crushed by that photo. I wiped away my tears and stood up from the floor. In the mirror, I looked a mess, but my eyes had never been so firm. This child could not be kept. It could not become a tool for my humiliation. And it certainly could not be born into a family without love, filled with lies. I picked up my phone and made an appointment at the nearest private hospital. The procedure was scheduled for tomorrow morning. Oscar, this is what you owe me. Now, along with our child, I am returning it all to you. From now on, we owe each other nothing. Chapter 5. Lying on the cold operating table, the shadowless surgical light above my head was blinding. The chilly anesthetic flowed slowly into my veins, and my consciousness began to blur. In my daze, it felt as if I had returned to the university campus 10 years ago. The afternoon sunlight was perfect. Oscar, in a white shirt, holding a guitar, was singing love songs to me beneath the camphor trees. His eyes were clear and passionate, as if I were his entire world. He said, "Helen, when we graduate, I'll marry you. We'll have a daughter as lovely as you." Those vows still rang vividly in my ears. But the boy who sang had, in the end, died in the dust of this world. The cold instruments entered my body, bringing a sharp pain that dragged me back from memory into reality. I closed my eyes. A tear slid from the corner of my eye and disappeared into my hair. "Baby, I'm sorry. Mom can't bring you into this world, because your father doesn't want us anymore." The procedure ended quickly. The nurse wheeled me back to the ward. The anesthesia hadn't worn off, and I drifted into a heavy sleep. It was an extremely restless sleep. I dreamed that I had fallen into a deep sea. Around me was endless darkness and icy water. I struggled upward desperately, but no matter what I did, I couldn't reach the only source of light. Just as I was about to suffocate, a pair of hands grabbed me and dragged me out of the water. I jolted awake, my whole body drenched in cold sweat. The ward was very quiet. Only the soft beeping of machines remained. Outside the window, it was already dark. A sinking pain came again and again from my lower abdomen, reminding me that I had just lost a child. My heart was as empty as a vast black hole. I picked up my phone. There were still no messages. Oscar hadn't even tried to contact me again. Perhaps he was with his something fresh, enjoying himself, with no time to think of me. His habit. I gave a self-mocking smile and opened my photo album, scrolling to the picture of the pregnancy test. Then I opened my contacts and found Oscar's number, the one I had blocked. I didn't call him. I didn't text him. I simply sent him that photo as an MMS. No words attached. I thought those 2 red lines were explanation enough. After that, I blocked him again and turned off my phone. I didn't know what his reaction would be when he saw the picture. Shock? Guilt? Or would he think I was using a child to threaten him? I didn't care anymore. I just wanted to use this to draw the cruelest and most final full stop for him. For me. And for that innocent child. From this moment on, in my life, there would no longer be anyone named Oscar. I threw back the blanket, struggled out of bed, and walked to the window. Outside were the city's countless lights, brilliant and unfamiliar. Where should I go? This city where I had lived for 10 years no longer had a place for me. Then I would leave. Go somewhere no one knew me, and start over. Chapter 6. I stayed in the hospital for 2 days. After my body recovered a little, I went through the discharge procedures. I didn't go back to that so-called home. Instead, I went straight to the bank and withdrew my half of the money from our joint account. Then, I booked a plane ticket to the south. It was a small coastal city I had always wanted to visit, but had never gone to because Oscar disliked the damp climate. Before leaving, I called my best friend. "Helen, you finally contacted me. Where are you?" Oscar is going crazy looking for you. Her anxious voice came through the moment the call connected. Looking for me? I asked calmly. Yes. He suddenly called me in the middle of the night the day before yesterday, asking if I knew which hospital you were in. His voice was shaking. He said you sent him a photo. Helen, did you? The baby is gone. I cut her off, my tone as flat as if I were talking about someone else. There was silence on the other end. After a long while, she finally spoke, her voice choked with tears. Helen, you're so foolish. Why didn't you tell me? It's all over. I took a deep breath. I'm calling to say goodbye. I'm leaving. Leaving? Where are you going? Somewhere no one knows me. Then, when will you come back? I don't know. Maybe never. Helen, she broke down crying. Don't cry. I'm fine. I tried to make my voice sound lighter. Do me a favor. Everything in my apartment except my personal belongings, sell it at a second-hand market. Keep the money for now. The password is your birthday. And the car, the keys are in the drawer. Help me deal with that too. As for the apartment, let Oscar handle it himself. Okay, she sobbed in response. I'm hanging up. I'll message you once I arrive safely. After ending the call, I watched the city scenery speeding backward outside the window. There was no reluctance in my heart, only a sense of relief. Goodbye, Oscar. Goodbye, my chaotic, derailed 10 years of youth. When the plane landed, the southern sea breeze carrying a faint salty dampness rushed toward me, blowing away the last trace of gloom in my heart. I rented a small apartment with a view of the ocean. It wasn't big, but it was warm and cozy. I didn't rush to find a job. Instead, I gave myself a long break. Every day, I slept until I woke naturally, went for walks by the sea, watched the sunrise and sunset, or I found a quiet cafe, read, painted, and sat there for an entire afternoon. I started learning how to live for myself. I signed up for cooking classes, learning to make all kinds of delicate dishes, not to cater to anyone's taste anymore. I started working out, practicing yoga, watching my body lines grow tighter day by day in the mirror. My mood brightened along with them. I cut off the long hair I had kept for 10 years and switched to a fresh short style. I also put on bright, vivid dresses that Oscar had never liked. It felt as if I had come back to life. One day, I found an injured kitten on the beach. One of its legs was broken. It lay on the rocks, barely breathing. I took it home, carefully cleaned its wound, and fed it. The kitten was very gentle and very clingy. When its injury was almost healed, I took it to a nearby pet hospital for a checkup. That was where I met Cameron. He was a doctor at the clinic, a tall, slender man wearing gold-rimmed glasses, looking gentle and refined. When he examined the kitten, his movements were very light, his eyes full of tenderness. It's recovering very well. You've taken very good care of it, he said, looking up at me with a smile. His smile was warm, like winter sunlight. My heart skipped a beat at that moment. Chapter 7. From that day on, I became a regular at the pet clinic. Sometimes I brought the kitten, Tang Yuan, in for checkups. Sometimes I used buying cat food as an excuse, when in truth I just wanted to see Cameron. He seemed to have some feelings for me too. Every time I went, he would put aside whatever he was doing and chat with me for a while. We talked about Tang Yuan, about the scenery of the little coastal town, about our hobbies. That was when I learned he wasn't a local either. He had moved here a few years ago. He liked the quietness and the slow pace of life. He didn't talk much, but whenever I needed it, he always gave me exactly the comfort and encouragement I needed. Being with him made me feel at ease, relaxed. It was a kind of peace I had never known in the 10 years I was with Oscar. During those 10 years, I had always been chasing after him. I tried to make myself better, more perfect, just so I could be worthy of him. I lived like a spinning top pulled tight, never daring to loosen up for even a moment. But in front of Cameron, I could be my truest self. I could go without makeup, wear slippers, and complain to him about how my design draft had been rejected again today. He would listen patiently, then hand me a cup of hot tea and say gently, "It's okay, take it slow, you're already doing great." My design studio was also slowly getting on track. I no longer needed to rely on anyone. With my own professional ability, I landed one project after another. It was hard work, but every time I saw a client's satisfied smile, I felt deeply fulfilled. Life seemed to finally be moving in a good direction. I thought everything about Oscar had already been buried in the past. Until one day, I received a call from my mother. "Helen, where exactly are you? Come back quickly. Oscar is about to go crazy looking for you." My mother's voice was full of anxiety. My heart sank. "Mom, don't interfere in my business." "How can I not interfere? Oscar has already come to our home. He said he knows he was wrong, that he'll cut things off cleanly with that woman as long as you're willing to come back. He also said you had an abortion." "Helen, how could you do something so foolish?" I stayed silent, listening to my mother scold me on the other end. "Mom, it was me who broke up with him. He didn't dump me, and it wasn't that I aborted the baby. The baby just couldn't be kept." I stated the facts calmly. "Well, even so, that was because he made you angry." "Helen, Mom knows you've suffered, but 10 years of feelings can't just disappear like that. I watched Oscar grow up. He's not bad at heart. He was just confused for a moment. Give him one more chance, okay? Not bad at heart, just confused for a moment." How lightly those words were spoken, as if they could erase all the damage he had done to me. "Mom, it's impossible," I interrupted her. "I already have a new life. I don't want to go back to the past." "You child, why are you so stubborn? What kind of good life can you have out there alone? Listen to Mom and come back quickly." I said I'm not going back. My voice turned cold. "If you keep calling me about him, then we shouldn't stay in touch for a while." With that, I hung up. I leaned against the wall, feeling a wave of exhaustion. I thought I had run far enough, but Oscar's shadow still slipped in everywhere, trying to seep into the new life I had worked so hard to build. That evening, Cameron came to bring me Tong Yuan's deworming medicine. Seeing that I was in low spirits, he asked what was wrong. I hesitated, then told him briefly about Oscar, including the child I had lost, which I had never mentioned to anyone. After I finished, I felt like a criminal waiting for judgment and didn't dare look into his eyes. I was afraid he would see me as a complicated woman with too much baggage. Cameron listened quietly and said nothing. He simply reached out and gently pulled me into his arms. His embrace was warm, carrying a faint scent of disinfectant, yet it made me feel incomparably safe. "It's all over," he said softly by my ear. "From now on, you have me." My tears finally broke free, pouring out uncontrollably. Chapter 8. Oscar's life truly became a mess. Only after I left did he realize that the woman he had once dismissed as a habit had already seeped into every corner of his life. There was no longer anyone to iron the shirt he would wear the next day. The refrigerator was always empty, or filled only with nearly expired ready-to-eat food. When he got sick, no one woke up in the middle of the night to pour him water and give him medicine. Only then did he finally understand that everything I had done for him was never something he was entitled to. And Luna, the freshness he thought he had found, quickly turned into trouble. She would throw tantrums if he didn't reply to her messages instantly. She would go through his phone without any restraint, interrogating him about his whereabouts. She demanded he buy her expensive bags and jewelry to prove his love. He began to miss my understanding, my thoughtfulness, the way I never caused him trouble, especially after he saw the photo of the pregnancy test. An overwhelming wave of panic and regret drowned him. He had never imagined I would really leave him. Even less had he imagined that we would have had a child, and that this child had been killed by his own hands. He started searching for me like a madman. He went to my company, to my parents' home, contacted every friend we had, but I had vanished without a trace. The harder he tried to find me, the more he missed me. He began to replay our 10 years together over and over again. He remembered the first time I cooked for him and mistook sugar for salt. He remembered how I stayed up several nights in a row knitting him a scarf to surprise him on his birthday. He remembered how every time I came back from a business trip, no matter how heavy it was, I brought him local specialties. Those details he once took for granted had now all turned into the sharpest knives, cutting into his heart again and again. His arguments with Luna also grew more frequent. "Oscar, are you even listening to me? That limited edition bag I asked you to buy, are you buying it or not?" Luna's shrill voice echoed through the apartment. "I'm tight on money lately. Let's talk about it later." Oscar pinched the bridge of his nose in exhaustion. His performance at work had been terrible recently. Several big deals had fallen through, and his bonuses had gone with them. Tight on money? Where did all your money go? Don't tell me you're still thinking about that, Helen. Luna pressed relentlessly. Can you stop making a scene? Oscar finally snapped. Who do you think you are? You're just, he wanted to say. You're just Helen's replacement, but swallowed the words back. Was he afraid of hurting Luna's feelings? No, he was afraid to admit that even he himself felt Luna wasn't worthy of even tying my shoes. The argument ended with Luna slamming the door and storming out. Oscar sat alone in the empty living room, looking at this home that was once warm but now cold like a model house, and for the first time felt loneliness sink deep into his bones. He took out his phone and opened the album he had already flipped through countless times. It was full of photos of me and him. In the pictures, I smiled so brightly, my eyes full of stars, and in those stars, there was nothing but him. He reached out, wanting to touch my face in the photo, but his tears fell first. Helen. I was wrong, please come back, he murmured to the cold screen, but the girl he had lost would never come back again. Chapter 9. My relationship with Cameron slowly warmed in the flow of ordinary days. He never made grand vows like Oscar once had. He simply left a light on and made me a bowl of hot soup when I worked late. When I racked my brain over a design proposal, he quietly stayed by my side and handed me a cup of coffee. When I felt low because memories of the past resurfaced, he said nothing, only pulled me into a warm embrace. His love was gentle and silent, not intense, but enduring. He proposed to me. There were no flowers, no diamond ring, no friends looking on. It was just an ordinary evening. We were walking along the beach. He suddenly stopped, looked at me seriously, and said, Helen, will you marry me? I looked at him. The glow of the setting sun fell across his face. His eyes were sincere and steady. I smiled and nodded, but my eyes filled with tears. I had once believed that I would never trust love again, let alone step into marriage. It was Cameron who, with his gentleness and patience, healed the wounds in my heart little by little and gave me the courage to love again. Our wedding was simple. We invited only a few of our closest friends. My best friend flew in from the north. When she saw the calm, warm Cameron by my side, she grabbed my hand and cried uncontrollably. Helen, you've finally found your own happiness. I'm really happy for you. I hugged her and smiled. Yes, I'm happy for myself too. Life after marriage was simple and happy. Cameron was a wonderful husband. He respected my work and supported my dreams. We raised Tangyuan together, traveled together, and slowly turned our little home into a warm, comfortable place. A year later, I became pregnant again. When I received the test results at the hospital, my hands were trembling, not from fear, but from excitement. I showed the report to Cameron. He froze for a second, then suddenly lifted me into his arms and spun me around several times. I'm going to be a father, Helen. I'm going to be a father. He grinned like a child, unable to stop smiling. Watching his pure joy, I finally understood what it looks like when a man truly loves you and genuinely looks forward to your child. It isn't responsibility weighed after calculating gains and losses. It is a heartfelt anticipation and happiness for a new life. Throughout the pregnancy, Cameron took meticulous care of me. He handled all the housework and cooked nutritious meals for me every day. He went on walks with me, told me stories, and even learned how to give pregnancy massages. I became his most cherished treasure. 10 months later, I gave birth to a lovely little girl. Cameron chose her name, Anna. He hoped our daughter would live a life of peace and joy. Looking at the tiny, rosy baby lying beside me, and Cameron standing by the bed, gazing at us with eyes full of love, my heart was filled with overwhelming happiness. At last, I had a complete family of my own. Chapter 10. While I was enjoying the happiness brought by a new life, Oscar's world had already fallen to rock bottom. He and Luna finally broke up. The reason was painfully cliché. While dating him, Luna had also been stringing along a rich second-generation heir at the company. Once she was sure the rich kid was completely devoted to her, she decisively dumped Oscar. Oscar became a complete joke at work. He had lost me, his supportive partner, and now had been mercilessly abandoned by his so-called freshness. His performance at work also declined because he was constantly distracted, making mistake after mistake. In the end, the company fired him under the pretext of failing to meet performance standards. Unemployed, heartbroken. In just one short year, the once ambitious, high-spirited Oscar had become utterly desolate. He started drinking heavily, spending his days drunk, lying in that empty house all by himself. When his parents came to see him and found him in such a state, they were furious. His mother pointed at him and scolded. "Look at what you've become. Was it worth it? Ruining yourself over a woman? We told you to treat Helen well, and you wouldn't listen. Now look, everything's gone." Helen. That name pierced Oscar's numb nerves like a needle. He suddenly sprang up from the sofa, grabbed his mother's hand, his eyes bloodshot. "Mom, do you have any news about Helen? Tell me, where is she?" His mother was startled and shook him off. "How would I know where she is? She's been gone for over a year. There's been no news at all." "That's impossible," Oscar roared. "You must be in contact with her. You just don't want to tell me." Like a madman, he began tearing through drawers and cabinets, trying to find any trace of me. In the end, from his mother's old phone, he found my best friend's number. As if grabbing his last lifeline, he dialed it immediately. "Hello?" My best friend answered. "It's me, Oscar." There was silence on the other end. "Tell me where Helen is," Oscar said bluntly. "Oscar, you still have the nerve to look for Helen?" Her voice was full of contempt. "You hurt her like that. And now what do you want?" "I know I was wrong. I really know I was wrong," Oscar said, his voice breaking. "Let me see her once. Just once. Please. I'm begging you." "Too late," she said coldly. "Oscar, Helen is married now. She's very happy. Don't go disturbing her anymore." Married. Those 3 words struck Oscar like a bolt from the blue. He couldn't believe that in just over a year, the woman who once had only him in her heart had become someone else's wife. "I don't believe it," he shouted into the phone. "She loved me for 10 years. She couldn't possibly forget me that fast." "Yes, she loved you for 10 years, and you killed that love with your own hands, in the cruelest way possible." With that, my best friend hung up. Oscar collapsed onto the floor. The phone slipped from his hand. At last, he understood. What he had lost was not just a lover. What he had lost was the Helen who had made him her whole world, who had been willing to give him everything, and all of it was nothing but the consequence of his own choices. Chapter 11. Oscar didn't give up. Through every possible channel, he tried to track down my whereabouts. He sold the apartment that had once been our marital home and, with that money, began searching from city to city. Like an obsessed madman, he had only one thought: to find me and take me back. 2 years later, he finally heard that I might be in a small coastal city in the south. He bought a plane ticket immediately and flew over. Holding an old photo of me, he walked through the streets and alleys of the town, asking everyone he met. Finally, one evening, he found me. That day, I was taking a walk by the seaside park with Cameron and our 2-year-old daughter. Anna, on her short little legs, was wobbling across the grass chasing a butterfly. Cameron and I followed behind, smiling as we watched her. "Anna, slow down," I said softly. "Mommy, up." Anna got tired of running and stretched out her little arms, acting cute. I smiled, bent down, and lifted her into my arms. The moment I straightened up, I saw a man standing not far away under a tree, staring at me intensely. It was Oscar. He was thinner, more haggard. His face was covered with stubble, his eyes bloodshot. Like a trapped animal, my arms tightened instinctively around Anna. Cameron sensed something was wrong. He followed my gaze, then quietly stepped in front of me. Shielding me, Oscar began walking toward us, step by step. His eyes were fixed on my face, then shifted to Anna in my arms, and finally landed on Cameron beside me. In his gaze were shock, pain, jealousy, and a regret so thick it was almost tangible. "Helen," he said, his voice hoarse beyond recognition. I didn't respond. I only looked at him coldly. Between us lay 3 years of time, a lost child, and the happy family I now had. There was no going back. "Is that your child?" he asked with difficulty, pointing at Anna. "Yes," I answered calmly. "And he is your husband?" he asked again, pointing at Cameron. Yes. Each yes was like a heavy hammer striking Oscar's heart. He closed his eyes in pain. His body swayed, as if he could barely stand. Helen, can we talk? He opened his eyes again, pleading. I don't think there's anything left between us to talk about. Holding Anna, I turned to leave. Don't go! He suddenly rushed forward, trying to grab my hand. Cameron stepped in front of him. Sir, please show some respect, Cameron said. His voice wasn't loud, but it was firm. Oscar looked at the man before him, taller, steadier, then at me and the child he was protecting. A flash of despair crossed his eyes. Helen, I was wrong. I truly know I was wrong. He shouted desperately toward me. Give me another chance. Please, let's start over. I'll give you everything. I'll give you my life. He began to cry, a man in his 30s, crying in a public park like a child. People around us started to look over. Anna was frightened. She whimpered softly in my arms. I patted my daughter's back gently, looking at the man who had lost all control before me. My heart felt nothing at all. Chapter 12. Oscar. I finally spoke, my voice cold as ice. Your apology is too late. 3 years too late, and one child's life too late. At the mention of that child, Oscar's body shook violently, his face turning deathly pale. No, that's not true. Helen, I didn't know. If I had known, he tried to explain, words tumbling over each other. You didn't know? I let out a cold laugh and cut him off. You didn't know your cheating would break my heart. You didn't know those careless words of yours would push me into the abyss. Or you didn't know that while you were wrapped up in passion with your something fresh, your fiancé was lying alone on an operating table, aborting your child? Every sentence was like a blade, stabbing straight into his heart. He staggered back 2 steps, lips trembling, unable to say a single word. Oscar, you're not wrong, I said, looking at him, enunciating every word. You just don't love me anymore. Or rather, the only person you ever loved was yourself. You enjoyed everything I gave, but were stingy with any return. You treated me like your personal possession, thinking that no matter what you did, I would never leave. You were wrong. I, Helen, am not someone who can't live without you. The happiness I have now, I earned with my own hands. It has nothing to do with you. And the pain you're in now is something you chose yourself. It has nothing to do with me either. So put away your cheap tears and regret. I don't need them. From the moment you chose to betray me, you were already dead in my heart. With that, I didn't look at him again. Holding Anna, I left with Cameron. Behind us came Oscar's heartrending cries. I didn't turn back. The setting sun stretched the shadows of the 3 of us long across the ground. Cameron held my hand and asked softly, Are you okay? I shook my head and gave him a bright smile. I'm fine. The sky has cleared. Yes, the sky had cleared. The wild wind that blew through my life for 10 years, that once made me believe it was my whole world, had finally stopped, and I had finally reached my calm, sunny days. As for Oscar, what happened to him afterward? I don't know, and I don't want to know. I heard he stayed in that small town and never left. Some say he went mad, standing by the sea every day, calling out a woman's name. Others say he was just atoning, but what does that have to do with me? His life, his regret, his ending, those are all just his own story now. And in my story, there is only sunlight, the beach, my beloved, and our lovely daughter. That is enough.